The time is 2:09. Hey, remember the old saying that a woman is more likely to be killed by a terrorist than get married after the age of 40? Well, an Anglophone over 45, as I once said, is more likely to trip over a tutu-wearing albino bear strumming a ukulele than he or she is to get a job in Quebec. Was I right? I don't know. We're going to find out. Marianna Balakhnina is the Coordinator of Research and Development with the Community Economic Development and Employability Corporation. They call them CEDECs. And they conducted a study of last time she was here. It was to kind of raise awareness, encourage people to participate. But they did a portrait, a mature workers' employability portrait of Anglos over the age of 45 in the greater Montreal area to find out, you know, how things were faring on the job market, how we were doing. And so she's back here to tell us about the employment needs and challenges of mature workers in the greater Montreal area. And we want to hear from you. 514-790-0991. You can text your comments to 514-800. How easy is it for you to get a job? And if you have a job, is it commensurate with your experience? In other words, maybe you've got a degree, but you're asking people if they want fries with that, or you're working, you know, you're being underemployed with respect to your abilities. So welcome back, Marianna.
Thank you very much, Kim.
Okay, so I guess we'll start asking you what it was that you found out. First of all, was it difficult to get Anglos to participate?
Actually, no. We have obtained a lot of media coverage, and given to that, we've obtained nearly 700 people that responded to the survey. There were two surveys, one for the City of Montreal and one for Greater Montreal area. It was 684 people that have responded. People that are English-speaking, aged 45 and over. There are no higher limits to the age.
And how cranky were they?
They're really upset. People were very frustrated. They've expressed their frustration given that they don't have control of their obstacles that they're facing in their integration in the labor force.
So what are some of the things that kind of came up over and over again? What did you notice that was kind of very common to these workers?
Well, first of all, one of the most common obstacles that was mentioned was the level of French and French speaking and writing skills. And we have found that nearly 38% of Quebec-born individuals find that it was very much an obstacle, while
38%?
38% of people that are born in Quebec.
Born here.
While 60% people that are born in the rest of Canada. But overall, it's about 83% of people that find it was at least somewhat an obstacle, their level of French speaking and writing skills.
Okay, and was their level of French speaking and writing skills evaluated at all in the survey? I mean, did they tell you, I've only got high school French, I didn't go to immersion?
There are a lot of different comments regarding that question, but the question was quite general because we've just evaluated their general perception of their level of French.
Yeah, because I am bilingual. My husband was a Francophone. I learned to speak French, raised my kids in French, and would say that I would find that my French would be, my level of French would be an obstacle to getting a job. Meanwhile, my Anglophone friends are jealous, you know, about how bilingual I am. So it really is kind of in the mind of the beholder.
That's right. Well, we evaluated were the perceptions of individuals. Therefore, it's hard to really tell what is the real level of French because it's really how the person perceives their
so
skills
80%?
83% found at least somewhat was an obstacle to them.
So was that the number one obstacle?
Certainly, that was number one. And a second most common obstacle was certainly the age. 33% felt very much so that it was an obstacle for their search for employment, while 40% found it was somewhat an obstacle.
So we're talking, it's an obstacle for 73%, almost three-quarters.
Exactly, and it becomes more acute after the age of 50, and in particular 55. So those segments are facing even higher discrimination.
So there's age discrimination.
That's right.
Going on.
And certainly, once again, it's the perceptions of individuals, but we found that it was important to evaluate their point of view.
Well, I'm thinking, you know, people aren't stupid, right?
Exactly.
If you go to 50 job interviews and you're not getting called in, you're going to start to say to yourself, wait a second here. You know, it's interesting. I was speaking with someone at a food bank. We were talking about the new poor, the new face of people, of the clientele that are showing up who need the services of food banks. And they were saying, because I was asking about the working poor, you know, people who are working and they can't make enough money. And I was told by several food banks, not just one, that the fastest growing clientele are people 50 and over.
That's right.
That they were having, and people who were highly educated and were having difficulty finding a job. So coming up, I want to ask you about the level of education, because I think when we think, an Anglo over 45, it was a hard time getting a job. You're talking about a unilingual Anglophone who maybe is a high school dropout, or maybe they've got their high school diploma, but they don't have anything past that. And I think this is going to be very instructive when you actually see the level of education that some of the people that you talk to who are, still struggling to try and find a job. We're speaking with Marianna Balakhnina. She's with the CEDEC, talking about their Mature Workers Employability Portrait. And we want to hear from you. If you're 45 or over, what's the job market like? I mean, are things just going along swimmingly, or do you find it difficult? Have you had friends who've had to move out of the province to go somewhere else in order to get a job and put food on, their table? And if you're 45, chances are you got kids you're feeding too. CJAD time is 2:15.
This is Sunday in Montreal with Kim Fraser on CJAD 800.
CJAD time is coming up on 2:19. Marianna Balakhnina is in studio with us, and we're talking about the employment prospects and perceptions among workers, Anglophone workers over the age of 45. They've just completed their Mature Workers Employability Portrait, in which they quizzed a bunch of English-speaking Anglos. Were they unilingual Anglos, or people had some level of bilingualism?
No, there's quite a few people that are bilingual that responded to the survey, and we certainly thought that there are even about 3% people that are considered themselves French that responded as well, but 90% of the people were English speaking.
Okay, but were they, because I would think, if you didn't speak any French at all, which is incomprehensible to me, I don't know how on earth it is. I think probably if you're over 60, it's certainly doable, but I don't understand if you're 45 and you can't speak French and you were born and raised here. It boggles the mind. Well, you actually have to work hard. You do, not learning French.
Certainly. Well, actually, a lot of people who were facing language issues were people 65 and over.
Yeah.
People living in the West Island, and people that have completed their education elsewhere. So also recent immigrants.
Okay.
These were the categories of people that had the most difficulties with their language skills.
All right. So we've looked at the number one obstacle, obviously, was language. The second one was age. Apparently, it's you're a dead duck if you're 55. You might as well just forget it. And what about education?
Well, people that have answered the survey, 48% of them had some sort of university degree or diploma, whether obtained in Quebec or outside of Quebec. And unfortunately, about 40% of people had responded saying that their education was not recognized. So those are individuals that completed their education outside of the country. And 20% of people who completed their education outside of Quebec said their education was not recognized.
What?
So that's a shocking
like
statistic.
A degree from New Brunswick apparently isn't recognized here?
So anywhere outside of Quebec, 20% of people.
Any of them complain?
Number.
No kidding. Anybody complain about the civil service and the language tests that you have to take?
No, I did not encounter this problem, but there are quite a few long answers that it was harder to go through every answer specifically, but there were a lot of frustration overall in terms of these obstacles: the age, the language, the knowledge about the resources is lacking, certainly, because they're about half of the people that are having difficulties accessing resources, they're not even aware of these. And mainly people that are unilingual, Anglophone, and people that are living outside of the city of Montreal, so outside of the island of Montreal as well.
Okay, so if you're in the South Shore and in Laval. Well, I guess if you're a unilingual Anglophone, you just figure there aren't any services there for you.
And actually, there
are?
Exactly. On our website, CEDEC.ca, we have a list of resources that those individuals can access, people 45 and over.
Can they get free language tests or free language training?
A good question. I'm sure they can in a lot of those organizations, and we can certainly put this information on our website as well. But there are a lot of resources available to those people. They can be as well directed towards training and programs that are ranging from a few days to literally 6 months.
I have to wonder, though, I'm sitting here as an Anglophone. When I see surveys showing that Anglos in the Montreal area are 24% more likely to be jobless than a Francophone, and Anglos living in the Montreal area are more highly educated.
That's
more
right.
likely to have university degrees than the national average. Fewer of us drop out of school. and you still see this unemployment rate. It says to me, I mean, my little racism bells go ding, 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 ding. There is an element of that. And did people complain about it?
That's right. And actually, Statistics Canada suggests that as of 2006, there's been consistently higher rates for Anglophone people all over the province, and almost 2% higher than the rest of the population.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the Montreal area, because obviously Anglophones are concentrated here.
That's right. In the Montreal area, certainly we want to look into the statistics of the latest census, which will be available soon, but I'm sure it's quite higher than the rest of the population. So,
and what about visible minorities? If you're an Anglophone and a member of a visible minority,
the challenge is certainly higher.
You just need to leave. Right?
Hopefully not. So that's what we're trying to focus on preventing, because we do want people to remain in the province.
Because there are a ton of talented young black Anglophones.
And that's another project we're working on.
Fled this province.
That's right. That's right. That's another project we're working on, because we do want to keep those fresh graduates, I would say, in the province of Quebec.
Really? How interested is the government in hanging on to Anglophones? I mean, is anybody in there, boo-hooing if we head off down the 401?
Well, we have launched the report, and we've received members of Emploi Quebec, as well HRSDC, that are doing the similar strategies for people 45 and over, and they're interested as well in our project that focuses on English-speaking people. So I would say that certainly there is some interest there, and this is the hope that we have seen.
But I remain skeptical. I have to say,
we have to be very strong and optimistic. Which
is the bigger factor, though, age or the fact that you're an Anglophone?
It was the knowledge of. It was the biggest obstacle was the poor in French speaking and writing skills.
Okay.
Age was the second most important obstacle that people were facing, and it was really different groups who were facing different obstacles. For instance, recent immigrants, they were more likely to face the French language obstacle, whilst people living outside of the city of Montreal were facing the age, and the older workers were facing a lot more barriers, including computer skills.
Were there, coming up, I want to ask you if there were sort of any fields that kind of came out where they were more accepting, that, it was easier for an Anglophone to secure a job? Because I'm sure not everyone who responded was unemployed.
That's right. There's about 36% of people that are employed, whether full-time or part-time, but those people find themselves underemployed.
Okay, we'll talk about that in just a sec. Talking about employment prospects for Anglophones, unilingual Anglos over the age of 45. What are the odds you're about to score a job? The Mature Workers Employability Portrait is out. Marianna Balakhnina is in studio with us. She's a coordinator of research and development for the Greater Montreal Area CEDEC, who conducted this report. So we found that language is quelle surprise, a huge obstacle for many people and 38% of people who responded were born here and felt that their language skills weren't strong enough to land them a job. Age is another one, and it started to be very apparent around 50 and kind of just got extremely apparent around the age of 55. Education, which is interesting because people are highly educated. It's not as if you're dealing with a whole bunch of high school dropouts, marginalized group of people. You have people who are highly educated and saying that their education was not recognized here in many cases. You're talking about people being underemployed as well, so they weren't in jobs that lived up to the type of education or experience that they had. What are the fields did you find that were more welcoming?
Well, the fields that people had most experience in were certainly the manufacturing sector. But once again, there are a lot of people that felt that they were underemployed as they were not in the area of interest, or they were under fields that...
everyone feels they're underpaid, Marianna.
Probably that's the case. But the interest people expressed towards the civil service was one of the biggest fields
good
of
luck
interest
with
for
that
people.
one.
And the community development as well. So these are the sectors that people wanted to work in, but unfortunately that was not representative of their current employment experience.
Yeah, well, and also good luck. Good luck with that one, getting a job with the Quebec Civil Service if you're a unilingual Anglophone. Actually, good luck if you're a bilingual Anglophone. Call me if you manage to land a job. And it's not in healthcare and in education. Marianna, thank you so much. Where can people find out more about this?
People can find out more at www.cedec.ca, CEDEC.ca. We have the report published in 2 languages, available in electronic format, and as well as the list of resources that people can access to, people 45 and over, and that are targeting this population, and especially the English-speaking people as well. As unfortunately, we found that only 27% are very much aware of the resources available to them. So that's a huge problematic.
1 in 4. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a huge
well, we're not an age group that's used to sort of being helped out. We're used to being independent. Marianna, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Kim.
That's www.cedec.ca. CJAD time is 2:30.